Yes, well, you're an Amazonian beast.
And oh.
Oh, are we live?
Yes,
We're live.
Yes, we are.
Live.
Hi, and welcome to Aquaman and Wonder Woman's tenacious talk show. I killed your wife.
Seriously? You're gonna do this now? We're live on television and you're gonna do this now? Steve, tell her to stop.
Do I have to? Okay. Anyway, today we're doing our big Amazonian literature special.
Oh, which butch lesbian shut-in are we gonna discuss today?
Emily Bronte! The second eldest of the famed Bronte sisters.
Ah, yes, Emily Bront. It reminds me of the time Batman and I fought his arch nemesis, Bad Poetry Man. And Batman had to read bad poetry, and I think I took a nap.
It's pronounced Bronte, you uncultured swine! It's exactly why we choose to ostracize ourselves from men.
Oh, really? I thought it was because you couldn't get laid. Because you couldn't get a date.
How's your wife, Mara? I've got her helmet somewhere.
I hate you. Let's talk about your lesbian friend, the one who interprets the sad song of the sea in the most depressing manner. I, for one, prefer to hear it in the key of beluga whale.
If Emily Bronte had been a Themysciran, she would have been the queen. Her fierce independence, anachronistic sense of feminism, and her bitter scorn felt for sentiment and marriage powered her through her tumultuous life.
Ah, yes. Hope is that feathered thing that perches within the soul and sings the tune without words and never stops at all. Now there's a lesbian shut-in I think we can all appreciate.
That's the wrong Emily, you little tight end. Little tight end. This is Bronte, not Dickinson. Anyway, as I was saying,
Oh, Emily Dickinson. She's the corpse in that movie that was by Tim Burton with the bride who was also a corpse.
Aquaman?
Yes.
Let's go sit in the corner. Just go.
But I love me. You love me. The audience loves me. Look at all the love right here that there is for me on this table. Love. It reminds me of the time I was loved by many, 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 many beluga whales. I call it the time I was loved by so many beluga whales that I can't get into it right now.
Do that many beluga whales include your wife? Anyway, the Brontes were a family of tragedy and loss. There were 6 children born into the family, the 2 eldest of which died in the midst of childhood. 3 sisters remained, Charlotte, Emily, and Anne, along with 1 brother, Branwell. When their mother died, their father...
Blah, blah. Look at me, I'm Wonder Woman, and I think lesbians are cool.
Okay, little Woody.
Oh, this fell off. Boring. I want to hear more about Bronwell and his homosexual experience.
This is not about Branwell, Arthur. No, it isn't. It's not about Branwell, it's about Emily. Anyway, their father raised them, strained by his own religious piety and eccentricities. And while Charlotte was steadfast and stoic, Anne was sort of demure and submissive, and Emily was bold, cynical, and shared in her father's eccentricities. You sit there, little Diane.
Well, that certainly is boring. If I wanted to learn, I'd go battle the Riddler again. Now I think it's time for our first guest. Let's welcome Cat Lad, or is it the Stray? Who can keep up with you kinky children these?
Sorry?
Oh, shit. Meow. Aquaman, may I just say that you look perfect today?
Cat Lad,
Yes.
would you like a fish stick?
Why, thank you. Now, you've come to tell us about some poetry today now, haven't you, Cat Lad? Oh, I thought I was here to perform.
So, brother Cat Lad, which Chippendales did you crawl out of?
The one down the block. Pun intended.
What pun?
Shut up, he thinks he's witty.
So, what selection will you be reading for us today?
Well, I think that I'd rather keep it a perfect surprise. Yes, hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without words and never stops at all, and sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm.
By the beard of Zeus! You too are confusing Emily's.
Sorry, I get my lesbian shut-ins confused. Was that one written by you?
You are the paragon of ignorance, my leather-clad brother.
Oh, thank you. Well, here, let me try a different poem. What do you think, Fluffy? Is another poem, perhaps? Okay. Methinks this heart should rest a while. So silly round the evening falls, the veiled sun sheds no parting smile. Nor myth nor music wakes my halls. I have sat lonely and all the day watching the drizzly mist descend, then first conceal the hills in grey, and then along the valleys wend, and I have sat and watched the trees, and the sad flowers, how drear they blow. Those flowers were formed to feel the breeze, wave their light leaves in summer glows, yet their lives passed in gloomy woe, and hopeless comes its dark decline, and I lament because I know that cold departure pictures mine. Whoa! That was depressing, cat compatriarch. I thought you were a happy little cat fellow. Oh, well, lives passing in a gloomy woe, that's too downbeat. I think it's time for a song.
Steve, cut this out! Cut this out! Now that was depressing. And we're back with Aquaman and Wonder Woman's Tenacious Talk Show. As I was saying, it's hard to read Emily Bronte without feeling a sense of depression. As someone who was familiarized with death so young, Emily dwelled upon it as the only solid and reliable thing in life. But as somebody who outwardly scorned love and kept herself in seclusion, not out of fear, but out of disgust for the society of others, why would Emily choose heartbreak as the theme of such a poem?
Oh my, you are bad. Oh, what were you saying? Oh, yes, Emily, depressing, kills somebody, she kills herself.
That's Sylvia Plath.
Empty, sad. Oh, so then this one died like Pocahontas. Has she been hanging out with Andre? Those Argyle socks will get you. Yes, but it will be one wild night. Outrageous!
Aquaman's syphilis is no laughing matter.
Especially not if you've been hanging out with Andre. If you have, get yourself tested. Anyway, I'm bored. I'm gonna go get some fish sticks or something. Aquaman, out!
To answer my previous inquiry, Emily Bronte speaks of heartache not from her own point of view, but from the point of view in others. See, Anne and Emily Bronte together
that was because she was an ugly old maid, never loved or married or had anyone care about her at all. Kind of like you.
Like me, Emily Bronte chose isolation. How's Con, by the way? Is he still dead?
No, actually, he's back and in your kitchen.
Not for long. So, Emily and her sister, Anne, they created worlds of their own. Their most celebrated were called Angria and Gondel, and they were their main means of escapism. Their most celebrated, let me repeat, were called Angria and Gondel, and they were their main means of escapism. The previously read poem is an excerpt of one of the Gondel poems, where the main heroine, Augusta Geraldine Almeida, a strong, commitment-spurning member of royalty, broke many hearts in the saga of her life. This poem works to explore one of the rejected sorrows and the solace that he seeks in nature.
I think it says a lot about them that when they could create their own world, they created one where everything was so grim. If I could create my own world, it would have lots of catnip and boys.
Yeah.
Shirtless boys. By the dozen. Lots of them. And milk. Warm milk.
Great
Milk.
tears of Aphrodite, I'm surrounded by idiots.
Anyway, I'm off to have sectional. I'm off to have sectionals for some competition that I'm in, and yes, Oh, God, not on the dryer. I couldn't find any fish sticks, but I found fish. Why was Cat Lad's boyfriend eating soup off of the dryer?
That's just not sanitary. Speaking of various types of sanity, it's a close enough segue, shut up. Emily used several examples of mental health in her works. As much as she dwelled upon death, she dwelled upon insanity. Any reader of her sole novel, Wuthering Heights, would attribute Heathcliff's cruelty to decaying sanity. The aforementioned poem displays the effects of heartache upon the human psyche.
You know, sometimes it feels like you're just spewing off facts about this person, as if it's some kind of project due for some kind of strange English class or something.
What kind of English class would demand this kind of a project?
Well, a barbaric one, of course. Some kind of strange surface dweller school. One without fish. It's a bit odd, but a bunch of kids quarantined into a little room, no sunlight, forced to analyze poetry day in and day out, using some kind of ridiculous method. Speaking of which, I think it's time for our audience participation.
Yes! If everyone would look under their chairs, they'll find a poem!
You get a pillow, you get Poem?
Poem.
Poem.
Not a pillow.
Well, I'm keeping my... I'm keeping the pillow.
In what context would pillow even make sense? To counter the incompetence of my co-host, I'll explain the rules. Dear brothers and dear sisters. See, we have generously handed you out a poem, another of Emily Bronte's. It's time for you, yes, all of you, even those of you who already know how to analyze poetry on their own, to analyze this poem using a TP-cast chart.
Well, that's fine, but I'm keeping the poem. Anyway, in the meantime, while you all do this, I'll entertain you with a little ditty. One that will certainly help you get in the right spirit for this classwork.
Super breath can come in fire, frost, or just plain bad. Shrinking's a power, but it's kinda sad. Shifting shape into a snake can give folks quite a fright, but only your heart will win us the fight. There's portal creation and astral projection, telekinesis and dead resurrection. With mind control, you're on a roll, and if you're lucky, flight. But only your heart will win us the fight. Who are you? Just a man or a Superman? The man we turn to for the plan. Who are you? Just a man or a Superman? The man we need to take a stand. There's time travel, stretching and even while crawling. A sonic scream helps you with your bad guy brawling. Fist of steel can make you feel an increased sense of might, but only your heart will win us the fight. Who are you? Just a man or a Superman? The man we turn to for the plan. Who are you? Just a man or a Superman? The man we need to take a stand.
So, did you all fill out the ridiculous yet school-mandated forms yet?
Oh, Di, they're not all that bad. Look, I made a paper airplane with mine. Whoosh!
What what use are aviary forms of transportation when they can be seen?
Have I ever told you about the time I commandeered a blood vessel in Batman's
No.
bloodstream? Ah, yes, I remember it like it was yesterday. You see,
Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on.
Arthur!
Oh, Die. What are you doing after this?
I'm seeing what Dr. Psycho is up to. I'll be bored. Why do you ask?
Well, I was thinking that maybe we could get some soup and then fight some soup villains.
As long as we keep it off the dryer.
But first, TP Cast. Title is the first one, I believe. Andre, what was the title? Very good. Here. Well, we don't have... The fish sticks are coming later, and you'll get one. That'll be a reward for your answer to the question.
Yes. And now we'll compare. The title is simply Hope. Now, not being one of the Gondola Angria poems, this is one from the point of view of Emily herself, which means Hope can pretend one of two outcomes. One of optimism or one of pessimism. What is your take on the title, Brother Arthur? Well said. Now, in the first stanza, Emily is trying to convey the very hope of hope. Hope is personified in lingering on the outskirts, evasive and just too intimidating to ever be caught. That is, until the narrator becomes hopeful, only to realize that her fears were founded. Hope is the enemy and not the friend.
Yes, well,
Actually, this has nothing to do with the sea and its endlessness. This is not white girl poetry.
Whale noises?
No.
Oh.
Now, Mary, stand up and share what you said for the next part.
By Poseidon, that was an outrageous answer. But I think that I need to add...
The most pressing of connotations is the personification of hope as a friend, and then again as an enemy. Now, what is the author's attitude? To answer that, we have another special guest. To talk about the tone is the Dark Knight himself, Batman!